Yeah.
I'm starting recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you want me to talk, or do you want this as B-roll to voice over what I've already said?
We also need some sort of like explanation on.
Yeah, I guess just do whatever we can work with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start with one of the classic cameras. This is a Leica M3. This was their first M-mount camera that sort of revolutionized this type of shooting.
Type as in like.
This was one of the first high-end bayonet mount cameras. In the professional world, these were the cameras to use until more sort of automated stuff took over. And also through the lens viewing, so when you take an image with this camera, you don't see through the lens, which means you don't see exactly what you're capturing. Two things happen there. One is there's, depending on who you talk to, more or less of a chance to capture some type of quick action. But then also you run into something called parallax, where the difference between where the viewfinder is and the distance to where the lens is, what you're seeing through the viewfinder changes. So if you're up close to something, the image is actually shifted a little bit. Whereas an SLR camera, like a Nikon or a Canon, sort of that classic look, you didn't really run into that problem. So they really quite quickly took over the marketplace. So this one loads up through here. And we put those guys in. And one of the things that made this camera so popular, if you can believe it, was this is what they considered quick loading. And I'll show you the old method momentarily. So the film goes in, back is closed, base plate on, 2 frames, and you're ready to shoot.
Relatively quick.
Yeah, relatively. Now do that with bullets whizzing by you.
Oh boy.
This is another classic camera. This is a Rolleiflex, a twin lens reflex. This also has a similar issue with parallax when you get up close, because the viewing lens and the taking lens are separate. However, the advantage to this is they made a very compact camera with a very high quality result. This camera was probably most famously used by Richard Avedon. He loved these cameras. So loading happens from the bottom. You open the camera up. And this camera takes 120mm film, which is roll film. This does not get rewound the way a 35mm cassette would. It just winds on to the next spool, and you end up with one of these exposed versus one that hasn't been exposed. These ones are not necessarily trickier to load, but you do kind of have to pay attention to what you're doing before you get the film in. If I just let my hand go off of this, it would unspool and the roll would be ruined. So you get it into the camera. Once it's in the camera, it's fine. The pressure plate loads it. Some rollies load under, some don't, just as model to model. The function of this roller, when you close the back, is to try and keep the film plane flatter and have a higher tension on the film. The flatter your film plane, the sharper the resulting photograph will be from edge to edge of your negative. These ones are slightly less fancy in the way you load them. You just stick it into here. and take an image and wind. Wind until you see that big giant arrow. Some film actually says start. Kodak doesn't really label. Close up, lock it into place, and then you wind on until it stops. This one just is a way to recess the wind lever. And that one now is ready to shoot as well. Moving through to something different again, we go into a Polaroid camera. This is instant film, but this was what was more commonly used in studios for passport photographs or for checking your exposure before you could just do so with the click of a button with digital. So before photographers would shoot, they would sometimes shoot, 100 Polaroid images before they actually started shooting on film. Annie Leibovitz did that a lot. So these guys open up from some predetermined start mark that I can't see at the moment. So this is actually made by Fuji. Polaroid sadly ceased production almost a decade ago.